Hi there, we're Seven Illusions.
Welcome to Enigma Media.
You push for this other me.
What up, headbangers? How you doing? I'm Robb, and welcome to the Greasiest of all time. Today we're chilling with Silvertonguedevil out of Dallas. How are you guys doing?
Hey, man. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for having us on your show.
No worries. Good to see you. Why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us how the band got together?
Right on. I'm Craig. I do vocals.
Josh, drummer. Brandon, play bass.
John, guitar.
So the band started in '05 here in DFW, where we play all around. And we've put out 4 full-length albums, and we just put out a new EP.
Nice.
And we've been consistent, the whole time, playing, recording, touring around and stuff like that. And kind of the longest break we've ever had was because of the pandemic. But even during that, we just kind of rearranged and focused on writing stuff. So we were writing and recording during a good chunk of lockdown. And then in Texas, things have kind of loosened up here. So we've had a couple of sporadic shows here and there, although certainly not fully back to normal.
Yeah. No, definitely. I know a couple of the bands that I've interviewed from Texas are already playing shows, so I'm jealous. You guys are lucky. Yeah. How was that experience in recording your EP?
It was good, man. It was the first time that we had these guys do it themselves. Where,
nice.
John and Brandon here, they have the gear and the know-how, so they
I wasted all my time in college learning to record, and now it's finally paying off.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's awesome. So COVID affected you guys with slowing down just the process of performing and getting together more often then, hey?
Yeah. Like we had like a full slate of shows and tour plans and all kinds of stuff lined up, and then everything came to a screeching halt. So we just kind of reorganized and did what we could while shows weren't a thing.
Yeah, for sure. Did you guys manage to, how was your crossover into the marketing world of being a band during COVID?
It was for us, like, we just stayed busy. So it was weird not, playing shows every weekend and having stuff lined up and, going out and seeing your friends and stuff like that. But aside from, there's like about a 2-month period where everything was just locked down and we didn't even get together to practice or whatever. Mm-hmm. But after that, we would start getting together and, just practicing just to practice and get tight again. And then, pretty much just started right in throwing riffs around and trying to figure out what we were going to do. And then, just focusing on, making the band more known online and, hype in all the social media stuff and doing whatever we could to keep busy.
Yeah, I find that's the hardest thing, is trying to gain new followers on social media nowadays, because it seems like it is a popularity contest.
Yeah.
Even if you have good music, it's like, oh shit, we can only get so many likes. Because really, how do you reach out to people other than personally messaging new people you've never met, kind of a thing? So I think that's what's awesome about the metal community we have, like the groups that like Dan Lowy and all them are putting together. Mm-hmm. I think it's definitely what we need, because there's a huge lack in community in the metal industry. I find where there's a disconnect between fans and bands just because it's so flooded. And I find that that's become a huge factor for most bands, is how to get out there, make those new fans that actually genuinely will go buy your product, kind of a thing, versus just like your page.
Right.
I think that's been one of the most difficult things for COVID. Besides, and I think it's also been a blessing in the aspect that we do get to sit down and write, and that's all it's been. We get to sit down and relax and write our music and focus on what we love versus like the political aspect of it, I guess, like the booking shows and having to go do that. And it was nice to just take a year off and just be musicians for being musicians again, like when we were young. Like revamp your love for what you do. I think it's a beautiful thing. In the same regard as it sucked, because I know that you guys had lockdown and then you got hit with that crazy snowstorm out of nowhere. So I know Texas has had a pretty hard fucking time. You know what I mean? Like I was talking with Raid and Semper Service and Cauterized, and they're all from around there. Yep. So yeah, it's been a hell of a year for you guys down there. That's for sure. Not to mention with all the fucking political aspect over the past year. So it's nice to just be able to like forget all that shit, write music, be musicians again.
Yeah. That was, we just tried to keep busy doing whatever we can, so it's like, if we have to adjust the plan, we'll do it, just because that's, at least for me, it's like a major like stress relief and something to look forward to every week is, it's like work sucks, everything out there sucks, but if you can get together with your friends and work on music and practice and stuff like that, it's like, if you can't play shows, we'll do something else,
Yeah, I definitely think that's drawn the line between who's a dedicated band and who's in it for show.
Yeah.
I think COVID kind of opened that up for us, because now
For sure.
we have this huge, right? Like you have a huge flood of bands on Spotify. Everyone's putting their stuff out and everyone's doing that, but not everybody is focusing on how to make it a business, how to get themselves out there. And I think it really will show off who worked their asses off in the last year versus who just tried to make funny videos to hit a trend, kind of a thing, So, and I know personally that, well, not personally, no, but I genuinely, with my heart, think that most of the bands we look up to, if they're not the Slayers, the Metallicas, like they're not touring, they're not selling much merch, you know what I mean? And that's how they make their money. So the major industry itself is going to crash real hard in the next 6 months. And these emerging bands are all going to get seen. So it's a beautiful time for us, especially if you know how to utilize social media.
I definitely think that there'll be a rush, once things open up kind of across the country. I know there's pockets right now of places that are kind of like starting to open, and there's been sporadic shows in Texas for a little bit. But, once things do actually open up, there will be a lot of opportunity for the bands that are ready. If you're on top of your shit and you're tight and you're ready to play, you will have opportunities, I firmly believe. But you're going to have to be ready.
Yeah.
I don't think that the people that have done nothing during the lockdown, I don't think they'll be in nearly as good a spot.
No, they're going to get left behind if they haven't already broke up.
Yeah.
Because I know that the distance thing has caused a lot, right?
Well, we've already seen a lot of bands, good bands, that have broken up during COVID, and not maybe because of that, but all the problems of life that gets in the way and people losing their jobs and all that kind of shit. So, but yeah, we've seen it, some really good bands have broken up, and then also a lot of bands that were maybe struggling to get started just faded away.
Yeah. And I think you see that worldwide. A lot of bands have said that their local scenes have slowly dissipated over COVID, even though because no one's been playing, and it was a really hard climate to adapt to. Like we went from performing and selling merch and face-to-face meeting fans after performing to having to make content that engaged a whole new audience. And like you gain followers that aren't even metalheads necessarily because they like your content. And then it's like the music almost gets overlooked and you forget you're musicians. And I noticed there's a lot of bands that did that. They kind of just went to the trends to get popular. But even that's like, you didn't focus on your music. You didn't focus on the business aspect. Like there's so much more than just playing music if you want to be a professional band.
Right. Yeah. There's
It's it's a lifestyle. It's not just a get together and jam kind of thing. It's you put your whole heart into it. And I know like in our band, we've had fights, not physically like punch each other, but like to the point where we're yelling at each other. And like that's a thing that most bands or most fans won't realize that bands deal with. And you put that with the amount of time that you've been away from each other and during lockdown, and yeah, it caused a lot of problems with a lot of bands.
yeah.
And it did. Whoever stuck together through it and was just like, you know, this is our goal, this is our dream. How can we make it happen? It'll happen. Like I have no faith, more faith in that it'll happen. You know what I mean? Like it's destined at this point. We deserved it. We earned it. We'll get it.
That's any relationship though with COVID, man. If you're at home with somebody, then it was the true test, you know, right? So the band's always been like any relationship, you know, you have your trials and tribulations, but you know, it's a business, but it's also that relationship like you talked about. So a lot of people don't see that.
Yeah, and we're unique people, you know, like musicians don't get enough credit. I say it all the time on the show is like we're so underappreciated for what we offer the world. And it's kind of a sad concept, but I feel that it comes in waves. So I feel like in time, the appreciation for live music again will come back like full bore, which will be nice. But it's going to be interesting in the next 6 months to see what happens during like this summer when things slowly start to open up in all the countries.
Yeah. Well, it'll be real hard because, you know, another aspect is a lot of clubs have closed. So a lot of the places that bands can play are no longer there. Then you're going to have like an overcrowding of everybody wanting to play the places that were able to gut it out. And because there's not a lot. I mean, even here in DFW is, I mean, more than half of the venues have closed. And I'm probably being generous. It's probably closer to like 75%. But, you know, it's like places that were legendary and have been open for years and that bands would always come to play, just closed doors forever. So there's still a few out there, and there's a few that are, you know, have stayed strong, and that's good, but they're few and far between. And I can only imagine that that would be really worse in places that aren't as populated as Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah, BC got hit pretty hard. I know Vancouver, a lot of the venues are gone. So, I mean, I emailed the premier of BC the other day, just like giving him an idea of how to do something for the community and stop like the opioid crisis that we have in BC. And I just suggested an all ages venue with 2 stages, get the youth in there. You know, I think that's one thing that definitely lost touch was us with the youth and getting them into shows. Cause as we aged, right, we got into bars.
You gotta think of the children.
That's right.
Right. Well, they're also the ones who are gonna buy the shit. You know, Mom, I want a T-shirt. I want a CD. Fuck, all right, stay out of the fucking trouble. You know. So, plus, I feel that like when we grew up, we had live shows. It was a total connection with the band. You know what I mean? Like there was this love that you built with bands. You see them once, and you're like, holy fuck, I'm gonna go see them again. And then eventually you see them 10 times, like a local band, and you're just like so connected to them. And you have their merch.
Like, hey, you're like, hey, it's that.
Yeah, I feel like that's totally missing because we're all trying to appeal to our age range. You know, like I know I'm always constantly trying to book bars and things like that, but like people my age don't want to go out. They want to buy beers, you know, they don't want to pay money to go see a band. So I think with the venues closing, it can be a total blessing for us to gain a whole new following by appealing to all ages events. And doing those, hosting them ourselves and kind of, you know, just like putting it back into the community, because I know for a fact that if we were to bring music to the youth would come, kind of a thing, you know, like if you bring it, they will come saying, so 100% they'll be there. And I know there's tons of young kids that are into metal. They just don't know how or where to find it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a cool thing that, no, not a cool thing. I shouldn't say that, but that all the venues closed. But I think it gives a lot more opportunity for different types of venues to open. Ones that are genuinely built specifically for bands, kind of a thing, not just like a bar with a small corner stage that you get shoved in and you get paid door. You know what I mean? Like that's things like that that need to change for us in our industry for us to be able to be appreciated. Because I mean, tattoo artists, how much do they get paid for a piece?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they can charge fucking $2,000 for an hour worth of work.
Mhm.
Why can't we get paid like a guarantee $500? You know, $100 each. So I think it's going to come to a point where bands just make a stand and we all just say, fuck it, take our music down, hide it, and let's see what everybody tries to go for, kind of a thing. Or people will start to appreciate it, because I know what we get paid from Spotify and YouTube and all that, it's shit. You know, like my mom was asking me the other day how much they get paid, and I told her, and she was just like, that's insanely disgusting. Like, it's disgusting how much musicians get paid, because she used to be a cover band. She got paid $3,000 to do a show, and we don't even get paid a cent for our streams, you know? So in the 30 years that she's watched it itself, it's gone from like peak to like nothing. And it's weird. It's a weird time for us, but I think it's a beautiful time, because I think we can finally take it back into our own hands, because now the big labels don't have such a fucking tight grasp around the neck of the music industry that we can actually just like pick and choose what we want to do now. It is the lack of venues, and I hope like governments and people see that that's missing, that live music, live entertainment is missing in culture still. Like it disappeared because I think of Netflix and social media, and everyone's just so focused on the now, and you have 30 seconds to grab someone's attention. It's impossible. I think it'd be nice if governments or privatized organizations would start up open venues for all ages and strictly musicians.
Mm-hmm.
How is the scene down in Dallas?
Well, we're lucky in that we've got a strong scene. We've got Dallas and Fort Worth. There,
everything in between.
and everything in between. Yeah, you know, it's just a big sprawl of different suburbs and stuff like that. And there's different pockets, but there's a strong scene. There's good, you know, like really good bands around, dedicated fans and stuff like that. So it's definitely, you know, a thriving place for music. And, you know, there's still strong, you know, fans that will go out to the shows now and stuff like that. But definitely everything's taken a hit, just for all the obvious reasons of, you know, venues closing, bands breaking up, people losing their jobs, and all the other things.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely of the places that we've seen around the U.S. is DFW. You can put their scene near the top, if not at the top.
Yeah, I've heard tons about it actually, and how it's super tight knit, strong. Bands work with each other.
It is, yeah. It's because, I mean, honestly, like Texas is so big, like you could make a career out of just playing Texas.
Yeah, I've always jokingly said it needs to be its own country, because you guys have, you're self-sufficient. You know what I mean? Like, you're good.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, is for us to go down to the border of Texas, like down by Brownsville and McAllen and Harlingen and stuff like that, down by Mexico, is just as far as for us to go to Detroit.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, yeah, you don't really like. I'm from BC, so like, it's like an hour to 2 hour drive in between any city where we're performing. Right, we're like 6 hours away from Vancouver, and it's funny because we have like
It's
six.
down the street for us.
Yeah, we're from AD.
Yeah, right. Like it's weird how little British Columbia is, for how big of a landmass it is. We only have 6 million people in the entire province.
Oh, wow. So where would you guesstimate that the center of the metal scene is in BC?
Areola, if you would.
Oh,
Right.
I would say it's definitely Vancouver. Like, Vancouver's scene, the bands they have are so good together. They're all just so diverse, and we all kind of work together because we know how hard it is here. Because like the Okanagan itself has amazing bands, but the thing is, there was one metal venue and it closed down just before COVID. Like they foreseen it happening, and they just kind of closed down because they had a baby. So it sucks because there's not many venues. Like if you're a cover band or a country singer, you're gonna get it in instantly and paid, but metal, good luck, kind of a thing. So we know we have to reach out of country. because the Canada music scene, there is no metal supported unless you're in Toronto and Quebec, really. But it's tight. Like the scene itself is tight, where you have bands that work together. So it's a beautiful thing because we're kind of building our own community where we're going to be putting on our own shows and just saying screw the venues and the big guys and just doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see, but I know 10, 15 years ago, it was way better. Like we had big bands coming into Vancouver and local shows were off the wall because like you had tons of kids coming. Like we'd have a venue and a show in a church and you'd have like 300 people crammed in there, just like crowd surfing. You know what I mean? Like you don't see that anymore unless
Yeah.
there's big festivals.
Yeah, well, hopefully, things can get back to that. That's the hope, is that, with people being starved to get out and party together and stuff like that, is that it will be able to rebuild to that level. And I think it's possible, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely have to do it ourselves. Go ahead.
I said there's gonna be a real big void to fill, and if we're all able to like adapt and survive, it's gonna be amazing what I see coming out of this.
Yeah, 100%. And I love the independence we have, like that we can record ourselves, put it out, market ourselves. We kind of get the best of all elements of what we used to have as musicians, without having to worry about getting screwed over for record deals and stuff, because you can take care of it yourself. You can hire PR, you can hire a manager. So it's nice. It's a beautiful time for musicians, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If there was one place you guys think that you would want to tour when things open up, where do you think it would be?
Oh man, anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah. Have you guys made it out to the West Coast?
No, we haven't. We've been all through the Midwest and the South, but we haven't made it to either coast.
Oh, nice. That's still pretty.
Not yet. That was actually one of the things that we lost out on, like right before, is we had a bunch of dates all over the country set up, and then we lost everything. So that was one of the things that we had lined up, but hopefully here sooner than later we're able to pick back up to where it was.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's I think that it'll be easier to tour now, because there's a lot more bands willing to work and reach out to other provinces and states, and I think that it's going to be building slowly, and you can see it building slowly online. We're all liking each other's pages, and that helps, because then it's like, oh shit, yeah, I got to go to this town, I know this band over here, set up a show. And I think that that's what we need, and kind of died in the past 10 years, was that it went from friendly competition with each other to like a genuine competition. And for bands, we can't do that. We're not sports. You know what I mean? Like bands need to work with each other, or things aren't going to happen. Because I can't remember who said it, but like if one band gets picked up from a scene by a record label, the record label is going to look at all the bands in the scene, So like if one gets big, you all get big together. And I think that mentality kind of died and is slowly coming back now because of COVID, because it's been bands for bands, you know what I mean? When we play, we're usually playing with the bands we open or we're working with. It depends on how many fans come, but there's always the bands. So I think that's one thing that we need to focus on, is like each other, work with each other, do whatever you can to help each other, because it'll benefit you in the long run, And
agreed.
We're a really tight community too. Like I don't know anybody who's harder working and more dedicated than metalheads.
Yeah, it's definitely not for the weak. You definitely got to be willing to put in the time and the effort, or it's just you're not going to be able to cut it. So that kind of leaves only the people that really want to do it.
Even the fans, though, like, I mean, how many friends do you have that like Slayer, that if you made fun of Slayer, they try and punch you? You know what I mean? Like, there's dedicated motherfuckers in metal, and I love that. Yeah. You don't see that in other scenes, like, ever. And I think that makes us unique. And I think it also is what makes metal music last throughout the ages, versus all like, if you look at pop music, how many times has pop music changed with its varieties and styles just to appeal? Metal's like, okay, we're metal. You can't change us. we'll slowly adapt. Like we'll add new things, like you get new genres, which is I think a beautiful thing because you need change. But I don't think we'll ever change our core values. You know what I mean? Like we're family, we're a huge family. It's like a world connected thing. You can meet a metalhead from across the country and you see him wearing a metal shirt and you're wearing a metal shirt and you're both like there's just it's a bond, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because a lot of people don't realize that either. Like I've heard, I don't know if you guys know who Raid is. They're from DW, or they're from Dallas Fort Worth as well, and two of their members are ex-servicemen. Like they worked in, one was I think Navy and one was in the military, and they're like the only thing that they can relate to being metal, like metal, the tightness and community is the military.
Yeah.
Like that brotherhood, that bond, and I'm like, that's a cool thing to think about. You know what I mean? Like we're some pretty badass motherfuckers. I love metalheads from everywhere, and it's
I haven't heard of them yet, but I have heard that sentiment before from people, you know, from dudes that had served and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's a beautiful thing because like I don't think people experience that aspect either. Like what it's like to be in the military. You know, you can hear stories, but it's not the same as experiencing it. And I think that's like metal. Like people can hear stories of us performing, but that's the good. You know, the bad is like when your tire pops on tour and you're like, fuck, we forgot that's the spare tire because we needed to put the snare drum in. Like that's the kind of shit that happens, right? As a band.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And people don't realize how much it costs to book a tour. Like I said earlier, we only get paid door most of the time. Like it's hard to get an actual rider unless you're established and signed and have a manager who's willing to fight for you. So when people are talking about support local businesses, I tend to like tweak my eye a little bit when they're saying that, but they're not willing to like go support a band that's local to them because that's what it is. It's a local business, right? But yeah, I think it's slowly changing. I think people will eventually appreciate what we do again. I hope so, because right now it doesn't feel like it's appreciated except for from our community.
Right.
If
I think
go ahead.
I mean, I think a lot of people missed, you know, the contact of a live show during lockdown. And I know, you know, some people in different areas have been even more severely locked down than others. And I think there's a real need and a real want for it. I think everybody's just kind of on eggshells right now, waiting to see kind of what happens. But I am pretty confident that once it's allowed to come back in some form, is kind of the floodgates will open, and people will just be, you know, thirsty for that contact high of going to a live show, and maybe, hopefully, even people that maybe didn't really get out before, because, you know, once you lose that ability to go out and socialize and experience music, is you realize how important it is, at least if it matters to you. You know,
that's very true.
I remember when everything shut down, it was kind of nice to have a break for like a week. You know, it was kind of it's kind of nice just to be like, oh, it's like the first time in forever we don't have a bunch of shit lined up, and it was nice. And by the second week, it sucked. It was horrible. You know, it was like, fuck, I miss all of it. You know, even the shitty load in and load out and driving home at 5 a.m. and all that kind of stuff is, you know, it's punishment, but you miss it. And, you know, it's been nice to play a little bit here and there, but it'll be great to be back at it. And not only that, but to get to see like touring bands and that kind of thing.
Oh man, I cannot wait to see other bands. Like I'm actually genuinely stoked to watch the local bands just because I didn't go hard enough for my last show. I think everybody regrets their last show, every musician and fan, just like, I should have broke my fucking neck headbanging. You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel.
Now we know.
It's like everyone just took it for granted because there's shows everywhere, and it's like, oh, I'll miss this one. I'll just go tomorrow or the next day, and then all of a sudden nothing is happening, and they're like, oh, it's a little bit more important. Let's put our energy into this shit now when it happens.
No, it's true.
One element of shows that I realized that I really missed was moshing. So like we had some shows where we still had the social distance, right? And we had the fans had to sit at tables, so they wouldn't allow moshing. And it's just like, man, something's like missing.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently we had like a small one, but it's still like I can't wait till there's a ton of people in the pit doing that again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, we played it was like a theater, and there was only stages, like seating.
Right.
Weirdest fucking performance ever, man. Like my my guitar player at one point was like, after he's like, dude, you could have gone a little harder, and I was like, what the fuck did you want me to do? Like scream at these people to stand the fuck up? They're not allowed, dude. What am I supposed to do? So
Right.
it was so awkward. And then you get the shows where you're like right here with the fans, and you're like screaming in their face, and you could feel the sweat from them. And I'm like, that's the shit. That's what I love, is that closeness with the fans, right? Or when you're singing and they smack your microphone and it fucking hits you in the lip and you're bleeding, you're like, yeah. It's like, I don't know. I miss that so much as like it pissed me off.
Mm-hmm.
Like years ago, I'm like, fuck it, spill beer on me. Like, let's go hard. You know what I mean?
Still beer in me. You know what I'm saying?
I know. Only you.
If there was anything in the industry you guys think you would change, what would it be?
Everything. Everything.
Right? No,
So
it's true.
it's weird, man. You know, it's I've told these guys before, but you know, is if you know people that do other types of performance art, right? Like it could be really anything, you know, like ballet dancers or burlesque performers or whatever, any kind of like live performance art, right?
Mhm.
In none of them are they not only required to perform, but to bring the audience.
Right.
For some reason, it's just a normal expectation for bands that not only do you play, not only do you provide all of the gear, but you have to provide 100% of the audience. That is just bizarre. You know, that it's just like, hey, you got to do everything and we'll allow you to do it and we're going to take a cut out of what you do. And it's like, for fuck's sake, what are you doing? You know, and so
standing behind the bar.
and it's crazy if you talk to people that do like other types of performing and stuff like that, and they'll be like, yeah, I just got paid, you know, $500 or $1,000 or whatever it may be just to show up, and the equipment is there for them and the audience is there for them and their job is to perform, but not for a band, because musicians are at the very bottom of the totem pole.
Mhm.
And you know, that'd be the thing, is the way that the pay scale is set up and the way that the clubs work and stuff like that, is it's not a workable business structure. Is they're putting all of the work on the band, and then if you can't bring in enough people to their club, they'll be like, well, we don't want you anymore. And it's like, you brought nobody. You know, it's like literally you guys did not contribute anything to this. So, you know, finding a way for it not to be just a thing where all of the expectation is on the band. It's like, look, is that people have to work together. And if you're going to be a promoter, guess what, motherfucker? You got to promote. It's not just enough for you to create an event page and be like, oh, there you go, I'm the promoter. No, you're not. It's because, again, you're making the bands do all the work.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be great if all of that bullshit would go away. I don't think it will, but that's what I would. You know, it's hard enough, and it should be hard to succeed, but it shouldn't be impossible.
No, I
And,
totally
you know,
agree.
that's the thing that I would get rid of. Is the problem is that bands are businesses, clubs are businesses, but 99.9% of the people running them are not businessmen. They do not know what they're talking about, and they don't know how to do a good job. But they pass that ignorance off onto the bands, and they make the bands take all of the risk. They make the bands do all of the investment, and then they bitch when the bands don't do enough for them.
Yeah.
So.
No, that is a very valid point. I think it's the first time anybody's ever actually brought up that point, and it's something that always pisses me off. I fucking can't stand promoters. I put my own shows on. Always have, always will. And
well, there's really good ones, but there's an enormous difference between the really good ones and then everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
just
really
like,
hard to find
look,
them.
club owners and agents and booking agents, like there's really good ones,
Mhm.
and they absolutely know what they're doing, and you can tell when you meet them because they're very organized, they're
Yeah.
very upfront about what needs to be done, and they convey clear expectations. But then there's people that just do not know what they're doing, and they're the majority.
They just want to make money off bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've dealt with lots of those kind of promoters, and then like you said, you get the ones that are genuine who are like, no, like here's $2,000 to drive out, and you're like, holy fuck, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost a blessing when you find a good one.
Yeah.
They're so there's so few of them. It's hard. You got to kind of like filter through all the hard ones. That's why I find the independence is nice because we can do it ourselves. We really can. It's just I think we got to a point where we were just taking anything that was given to us. Like I know a lot of bands that I've worked with, that's what we did. We just took shows that were given to us because we were like, oh, it's a show. And not really thinking about the logistics of it. Like, oh, okay, well, we just also spent $300 to drive out there for $10. So fuck.
Right.
So it's things like that over my years of failing in the music industry, I finally got to a point where I'm like, all right, I know what I'm doing. I understand business. I understand marketing. So yeah, it definitely takes a lot of heart and your own, diligence to go and figure out what is best for your group. Because sometimes, it is a booking agent. Sometimes it's just one of your members who's really good at networking, who can book you shows out the ass, and you're like, I don't even know why you're in the band other than you should be the manager. You know what I mean? Like, I've had band members that are way better managers than actual musicians, you know what I mean? And I think that a lot of the time it takes being a musician to understand the business behind it. And I think that is where a lot of promoters and agents and stuff, they weren't musicians. They just kind of stepped into it thinking it was something they were good at.
Mhm.
And that's where it ruins it, because you have to understand our perspective and where we come from and what it's like to be a band. So it's nice when you find somebody who understands that and doesn't try to rip you off.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh yeah.
Is there anything you guys want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, man. Just thank you so much for having us on the show.
worries.
Big hail to your audience and the people that are listening, and anybody up there in BC. Cannot wait until we get the opportunity to come up there and play. We just put out a brand new EP called Orgy Hell, and you can find it on all of the streaming networks. You just look for Silvertonguedevil. We just spell it as one word. It's kind of like a run-on. We also go by the abbreviation STD. You can find us that way. But yeah, we just put out new music. We get out, we try to put on a really entertaining show, and we just look forward to seeing everybody out on the road, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming on. And when you guys drop your next set of music, let us know, because we'll have you back on.
We will. Well, it'll be soon. We're
in the studio right now.
As you can see from his guitar,
Right.
we're actually recording tonight. We took a break to talk to you,
Mhm.
but we're in the process of recording some new stuff. So
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely throw it our way, and we'll have you guys back on again.
I will. Thank you so much, man.
No worries, guys. You stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Peace, guys.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that little dicky bell, because you don't want to miss out on any of the motherfucking shit we drop in. Right, Norman?
Absolutely, Rob.